Picture this. You're 21 years old, thousands of miles from home, living your dream of helping others in one of Africa's most beautiful countries. You've just finished your medical internship. You're about to explore Uganda's crown jewel, Murchison Falls National Park. The sun is setting, you walk just 50 meters to use the bathroom, and you're never seen again. This is the story of Sophia Koetsier, a Dutch medical student whose disappearance would expose corruption, ignite international controversy, and leave a mother fighting for justice for nearly a decade. But here's what the authorities don't want you to know. The evidence was tampered with, key witnesses were silenced, and the DNA found at the scene? It belonged to someone the police refused to test. To understand what happened in that Ugandan wilderness, we need to go back to where it all began, the canals of Amsterdam, where a young woman's compassion would ultimately lead her into danger. April 2nd, 1994. Sophia Isabella Frederica Coetsier enters the world to Gerard and Maria Coetsier, joining what would become a tight-knit family of 5. Those who knew Sophia described her with words that would later make her disappearance even more heartbreaking: brilliant, adventurous, empathetic. But Sophia wasn't just another privileged European student seeking adventure. She had depth that most 21-year-olds lack. At the Amsterdam Youth Theatre School, Sophia discovered her love for storytelling and performance. She could command a stage, captivate an audience. But as she matured, a different calling emerged, one that would take her to Uganda. Medicine. Specifically, tropical medicine. Think about that choice for a moment. While her peers were choosing lucrative specializations in cardiology or dermatology, Sophia was drawn to the most challenging, least profitable field in medicine. She wanted to work in places where healthcare was scarce, where her skills could save lives that might otherwise be lost. But Sophia carried a secret that would later become central to her case. At 16, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. This wasn't just teenage mood swings. This was a serious mental health condition that required careful management. Her family knew. Her close friends knew. But it wasn't something she advertised. Now, I want you to remember this detail because authorities would later use it to explain away evidence that didn't fit their narrative. August 2015. Sophia arrives in Kampala, Uganda's bustling capital, ready to begin her 8-week internship at Lubaga Hospital. She had just completed her degree in medicine and had come to Uganda to volunteer at Lubaga Hospital, with ambitions to specialize in tropical medicine and help underserved communities. The IST campus where she lived buzzed with international students, but Sophia stood out. Not because she demanded attention, but because she gave it so freely to others. Sophia didn't just do her assigned work. She'd stay late, help with deliveries, assist in surgeries. I even saw her cleaning floors when the janitors were overwhelmed. That wasn't required of interns. Local children followed her around the hospital grounds. She'd learned basic Luganda, one of Uganda's major languages, not because it was required, but because she wanted to connect with her patients on a deeper level. Every day she called home. Every day she shared her experiences with her family. "Mama, you should see this place, the people here. They have so little, but they're so generous with their hearts. I think I want to come back here after I graduate, maybe even settle here permanently." That enthusiasm, that deep connection to Uganda, it makes what happens next even more devastating. October 22nd, 2015. Sophia completes her internship. Most students would book the next flight home, eager to return to familiar comforts. But not Sophia. She wasn't ready to leave. What would you do? You're 21. You've just finished an intensive medical internship in a foreign country. Your family is waiting for you back home, but you've fallen in love with a place and its people. Do you play it safe or do you extend your adventure? Sophia chose adventure. She arranged to extend her stay by 2 weeks. Time for one last exploration of Uganda's natural beauty. A safari to Murchison Falls National Park, Uganda's largest and most spectacular wilderness area. It was a decision that would change everything. But here's what Sophia didn't know as she packed for that safari. Murchison Falls National Park had been dealing with serious security issues, including commercial poaching by international syndicates who had access to illegal firearms from nearby conflict zones. And there was something else, something the authorities would later try to hide. About 400 recruits from the Uganda Wildlife Authority were training at a camp just 1.2 miles from where Sophia would disappear. 400 trained individuals who knew the terrain, who understood how to track and how to cover tracks. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about those final 5 days. October 23, 2015. Sophia sets off with 2 fellow Dutch students and their local guide. For privacy reasons, and this is important, the names of her companions were never publicly released. Think about that. In a missing person case, the identities of the last people to see the victim alive are usually public knowledge. But not in this case. The group's itinerary was ambitious. Fort Portal, Queen Elizabeth National Park, Gulu, and finally, their destination, Murchison Falls National Park. For 5 days, they explored Uganda's incredible landscapes. Everything seemed perfect. Sophia was in her element, documenting everything, soaking up every moment. But around October 26th, something changed. Sophia's companions noticed she was sleeping less, talking more, much more, staying up late, engaging in what they described as risky behavior. Now, for those familiar with bipolar disorder, these are classic signs of a manic episode. Reduced need for sleep, rapid speech, impulsivity, poor judgment. Her friends were concerned enough to consider calling her mother back in the Netherlands, but Sophia begged them not to. She was embarrassed. She didn't want to worry her family. Put yourself in her friend's shoes. Your travel companion is showing signs of a mental health crisis, but they're begging you not to tell their family. They're adults. They seem functional. What's the right call? The group's guide, hoping to help, changed their itinerary to visit calmer locations. And it seemed to work. Sophia's behavior normalized until they reached Murchison Falls, October 28th around noon. The group arrives at Uganda's largest national park, 1,500 square miles of wilderness, home to lions, elephants, hippos, and Nile crocodiles. After a boat ride on the Victoria Nile, the same river that would later become central to the case, they settled at the Uganda Wildlife Authority Student Education Center. Basic accommodations, simple cabins, communal latrines about 50 meters from the main buildings. 6:30 p.m. Dusk. The African sun paints the sky in brilliant oranges and reds. Sophia, carrying a small water bottle she used for collecting trash, even on vacation she was thinking about the environment, walks toward the latrines. A staff member later reported seeing her near the facilities, looking thoughtful, gazing toward the Victoria Nile about 2,000 feet away. That was the last time anyone saw Sophia Coetsier live. Minutes pass, then more minutes. Her friends finish unpacking, start preparing for dinner. Someone asks, "Where's Sophia?" They check the latrines. Empty. They search the camp. No sign of her. 15 minutes after realizing she was gone, they alert the rangers. The search begins immediately, but darkness is falling fast in the equatorial wilderness. Rangers with flashlights scour the area. Sophia's desperate friends try something that breaks your heart to imagine. They sit in their vehicle playing her favorite song on repeat, Isabella by Southeast Soul. They blast it into the darkness, hoping she'll hear it and find her way back. No response. Just the sounds of the African night. 9 p.m. One of her friends makes the call no parent ever wants to receive. From that moment, Maria Coetsier's life became a nightmare that continues to this day. The search begins October 29th. Dawn. The search intensifies. Rangers, local police, military personnel, everyone available joins the effort. And then, the first clue. Sophia's water bottle, the one she was carrying, found about 16 feet from the northern bank of the Victoria Nile. But here's where this case takes its first bizarre turn. The rangers who searched this exact area the night before swear the bottle wasn't there during their initial search. It only appeared after daybreak. How is that possible? October 30th. about 40 hours after Sophia vanished. More of her belongings are discovered, scattered roughly 164 feet from where the bottle was found. The inventory is heartbreaking. Hiking pants, one shoe, sunglasses, a torn 1,000 shilling note, an empty souvenir bag she'd bought in Kampala. And here's the detail that should have immediately told investigators this was no animal attack. Pieces of fabric from her pants were found tangled in tree branches 16 feet off the ground. Think about that. 16 feet up. What animal climbs that high and then neatly hangs clothing on branches? Thomas Coyne, a survival expert who later examined the evidence, had a chilling conclusion. The pants appeared to be deliberately cut with a knife and torn into pieces, not damaged by an animal as some speculated. No blood, no tissue, no signs of struggle. The scene looked staged, but staged by whom and why? Here's what I want you to consider. If you were trying to make someone's disappearance look like an animal attack, how would you do it? You'd scatter their belongings near water where dangerous animals live, right? You'd make it look chaotic, violent. But that's not what happened here. The evidence was too neat, too convenient, too obviously placed. October 30th. Maria Coetsier arrives in Uganda, accompanied by Dutch embassy officials. Imagine her devastation. She'd visited Sophia just weeks earlier during the internship, and now she was staring at her daughter's torn clothing hanging from a tree. The search expands. Police helicopters, military units. Dutch authorities send a drone team. Despite massive efforts involving hundreds of people, nothing. And that's when the cover-up began. Ugandan media coverage was minimal. The official narrative emerged quickly. Animal attack. Case closed. Move on. But Maria Coetsier wouldn't move on. Over the next 4 years, she returned to Uganda more than 20 times. She conducted her own investigations. She hired private detectives. She pressured authorities to reopen the case. And in 2019, she made a breakthrough that should have cracked this case wide open. Stephen Nyadru, a retired Uganda Wildlife Authority officer, came forward with explosive testimony. He claimed he saw Sophia interacting with another UWA officer the night she disappeared. That second officer denied any contact and was never questioned by authorities. Never questioned. In a missing person case, every witness, every potential contact gets interviewed. But not this man. Remember those 400 UWA recruits training nearby that night? Maria discovered this detail 4 years after Sophia's disappearance. It was never disclosed initially. 400 people with wilderness training. People who would know how to move through the bush without leaving tracks. People who would know how to stage a scene. But the most damning evidence came from the Netherlands. All of Sophia's recovered belongings were sent for DNA analysis. The results were explosive. Yes, Sophia's DNA was on the items, but there was also unknown male DNA. Unknown male DNA. This proves human involvement. This proves someone else was there. Someone who touched her belongings. And yet, Ugandan authorities refused to compare this DNA to the officer who was seen with Sophia that night. Ask yourself this. If your daughter disappeared and DNA evidence suggested foul play and there was a potential suspect, wouldn't you expect police to test that person's DNA? It's the most basic step in any investigation. So why won't they do it? June 2025. Nearly a decade later, there's finally movement in the case. Michael Kijambu, the tour guide who led Sophia's group, went on trial. Not for her disappearance, but for operating without a valid license. During this trial, explosive testimony emerged. Stephen Nyadru testified that around 4 a.m. on the night Sophia disappeared, she was seen banging on panels and trying to set grass on fire, indicating a severe mental health episode. He claimed he warned the guide to take Sophia to a hospital and cancel the trip. The guide ignored this advice. But here's what's crucial. This testimony came 9 years after the fact. Why didn't anyone mention this behavior immediately after she disappeared? Today, the case remains officially unsolved. Ugandan authorities maintain she likely drowned, yet no remains have ever been recovered, and forensic evidence contradicts their theory. Maria Coetsier, now one of Europe's most relentless private investigators, refuses to give up. Every October 28th, she marks another year without answers. But she's not just fighting for Sophia anymore. She's fighting for justice, for accountability, for the truth that powerful people seem determined to bury. So what really happened to Sophia Coetsier? The official animal attack theory has been thoroughly debunked. The evidence doesn't support it. Accidental drowning? Possible, but where's the body? The Victoria Nile has been extensively searched. Suicide due to her bipolar disorder? Her family vehemently disputes this. Sophia was planning her future, excited about her career. Voluntary disappearance? Again, unlikely. She was close to her family, had clear goals, was happy with her achievements. That leaves the most chilling possibility: human trafficking or kidnapping. The staged evidence, the unknown DNA, the presence of 400 trained personnel nearby, the witness who saw her with an officer, the refusal to test that officer's DNA. All of this points to one horrifying conclusion. Sophia Coetsier was abducted, possibly by someone with the training and authority to cover it up. Sophia would be 31 years old today. She might be practicing medicine, maybe married, perhaps with children of her own. Instead, her mother continues a lonely fight for answers in a case that shows how corruption can bury truth. What do you think happened to Sophia? Was this a crime covered up by those in power? Share your theories in the comments below. And if this case has taught us anything, it's that we must keep demanding accountability from our institutions. Sophia Coetsier deserves justice. Her family deserves answers. And the truth deserves to see daylight.